I went from like making 1,500 to all of a sudden I did like 3,700. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then the following month I made like 7,800. And that's when I was like, okay, there is something real to this. I went from being the bad guy in my daughter's mind to being the protector. Part of growing the business fast and aggressively was to compensate for, you know, the financial struggles, everything that's going on in the back end that's driving the story.
You are now locked in for the Comeback Kings podcast. Let's go!
All right, fellas, listen up. I'm about to let you in on a little secret that could save you thousands of dollars every single year. Why keep spending big money every month just to watch your favorite shows and sports, especially when there's Renegade TV? I used to pay monthly for YouTube TV, Prime, Netflix, Disney Plus, and because I couldn't catch my favorite teams locally, I had to drop even more money on NFL Sunday tickets, NBA League Pass, MLB TV. It was sickening. Then I found Renegade TV. One device, one low price, and you get live access to every major sports league, NFL, NBA, MLB, UFC, you name it, you got it. You also get all the newest releases and thousands of movies and shows on demand. No subscriptions, no monthly fees, no hidden fees, just one setup and you're set. So now I'm saving hundreds of dollars every month and easily thousands every single year. So go to streamrenegadetv.com and use code CBK2025 to save $50 at checkout.
Oh, yes, we're back for another episode of the Comeback Kings podcast. I am your host, AJ Aaron James. Today, I've got an awesome King guest with us. His name is Jonathan Nilsson, and we're going to get into talking to him in just a second. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of backdrop on why I asked Jonathan to be on our show today. Jonathan and I have known each other for some time now, and one of the things that really excited me about having Jonathan on our show was because I'm watching this guy just grow. And that's what we're really all about here at the Comeback Kings, is just watching people grow, and you'll get to hear a little bit more of his story. But the resilience through what he's been through is just amazing. It actually touched me, something that's been very close to some things going on in my own personal life. So glad to have you here on the show. Jonathan Nilsson, what's up, baby? How you doing?
Hey, man, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Man, it's been a long time coming. So tell us where you're calling in from.
Yeah, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. So.
Very nice. Very nice. So it's warm out there, huh?
No, not today, actually. That's the crazy part. Yeah. It's been surprisingly warm, and then now it's cooled off, and now I'm bitching and complaining because I feel like it's so cold, and that's not what I signed up for. But yeah, it's cold.
So that's not where you're originally from?
No, originally from Norway. So that's
so that's a little difference, huh?
But
it's cold in Norway.
Say that again?
It's cold in Norway though, right?
Yeah. So I
okay.
Uprooted my entire life and existence to not necessarily be cold during the winter anymore. And then most of the time it isn't, but then the few times that happens in Arizona, I get really pissed,
Well, you can always go back, man, and get a new appreciation and then come back again.
That's true. That's probably good. That would be good. Get some perspective.
That's right. I lived in Scottsdale for maybe about 6 months, and it averaged about 110 degrees every day that I was out there. And that was just too hot for me. Too hot.
Yeah. You were like, I'm done. You didn't stay for the winter. That's the thing. You didn't get to experience the beautiful side, That's
right. I was melting. And, Black people, we can't be out in the sun like that. No, I'm just teasing. All right, let's get right to it. All right, so do us a favor. Just let us know who you are, what you've got going on, what you're excited about, family life, career life, whatever you want to talk about. The floor is all yours.
Cool. Well, I guess probably like, who am I? That's and what I got going on. I think the biggest thing that I got going on right now, and who am I? I have a publishing company, essentially have a self-help brand where we publish books on topics like emotional intelligence and inner child healing and stuff like that. I've seen tremendous growth on Amazon in 2025, which has really been driven by tremendous growth on TikTok. So if you talk to me, if you talk to me in February of 2024 and ask me about TikTok, I would be like, I have no idea. I've never been on the app. I've never posted a video.
Right.
And, now I'm in a position to where, I have almost 20,000 followers for the book account, not for me, my personal brand, if you will. And then, had several videos with multiple millions of views.
Wow.
Yeah. That's
so in essence, you've gone quote unquote viral.
Yeah, I've gone viral. Yeah, exactly. And
nice.
And cracked the code. Which is funny too, because my first foray into business and online business was I used to be like an online guitar teacher. I used to have my own teaching company and I tried to build online courses and stuff like that, and really wanted to build a personal brand. And I never cracked the code on going viral. So I just thought that, only certain people could do that, or whatever feelings I had around that. And now I've, achieved everything I ever wanted with virality and in social media, but for like a completely different, not personal brand.
Yeah. Well, so what does that do for somebody that doesn't know what going viral means? Like, what does that do for you if you're able to accomplish that?
Yeah, so I would say, for me specifically on TikTok, really what it's done is it just creates massive awareness around my books that I sell, which the brand. So it just turns into sales. I think, some people just have the stream of going viral and it's like, well, why? And, you can get a ton of attention, but unless you have something to sell, sadly, right? Well, whatever that is, then the attention doesn't necessarily turn into a business or monetization. So for me, I mean, I went into it with the purpose of selling books. And that's what going viral has accomplished for me, is just selling a lot of books.
Nice. So we don't do generics here. So what's a lot of books?
Yeah. So that would be, I think over 40,000 copies sold in 2025.
Good Lord. Good Lord. That's a lot of books.
That's a lot of books.
So
don't forget, the conversation continues inside the CBK mobile app. This is the premier community for content, conversations, and resources, all built to help our kings get back on track. Inside the app, you'll get exclusive after-show clips, direct access to podcast guests, and insider interviews with industry experts on everything from health and wealth to relationships and spirituality. You'll also unlock member-only deals designed for the needs of real men, plus tools and training to fuel your personal comeback. Come network with fellow kings from around the world and be a part of the global movement, helping men rise from setbacks and rebuild a life that they're proud of, with purpose, strength, and community. Join the movement now. Download the free Comeback Kings mobile app at cbknetwork.com.
So you wrote these books. Now you're selling them. So what kind of money is there in that kind of business?
Yeah, so I want to clarify something. I didn't necessarily write the books. So the way that I think of my business is it's a publishing business. So I create books in niches where there's demand, and then I outsource the writing, the creation process of the books. I'm not even like an author, right? I'm just someone that's solving problems, essentially. I'm just looking for areas where there's a lot of people that are looking to solve a specific problem, and then I'm creating a product that helps them solve that problem. And that product, the product just happens to be books.
That's awesome. So you're not writing the books, but you're still selling a lot of these books. Yeah. So what does the look like in doing something like that?
Yeah. So I mean, that depends on the month, of course, but it's definitely, 6 figures in income. On KDP last year, we did about 170K in royalties.
What?
Yeah. So, a couple of
royalties. That's take home, right?
That's take home. Yeah. I mean, I am spending money on ads, right? On the platforms. Sure. There is ad spend, so it's not all profit, but it's definitely turned into a 6-figure income there. And then on TikTok Shop specifically, we did over 350K in revenue. Wow. So profit margins profit on TikTok is a little bit different. And that's, part of what I'm trying to solve now is making that profitable as well. But it has really driven the awareness and the sales on Amazon, which is why we were able to be so profitable there.
Nice. Well, congratulations, brother. I didn't know I was talking to a superstar. I just thought we were friends, you know.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I knew you were a superstar. That's why I wanted to ask you. So how did you get into that to begin with? Because that sounds like a pretty cool idea that you don't have to have a specialty. Like I know a lot of people have a book in their mind that they, you know, oh man, I would love to write about this, but then they start saying, oh, well, I'm not an author. I can't do this. So how'd you get into this?
Yeah, a really backdoor way. I think it's, I think this business model has been known for a while, right? There's been people who have done it's essentially self-publishing. And I was actually I worked in high ticket sales. So I was working for companies like Crypto Mastermind, a company that was showing people how to take an online teaching business and turn it into a six-figure business. I just worked in the sales department for those types of businesses. And did, Zoom calls and outbound dialing and stuff like that. And then I was working for a company called Closers.io. I was an appointment setter there. It's like a recruiting and business development company in the high ticket space. And I was just looking for a different opportunity. I wanted to make more money essentially, and came across a company called publishing.com. I had a friend that was doing sales there, and that was a coaching company specifically to set up the type of business that I have. So I actually thought it was a very ridiculous idea when I first heard about it. I was like, this is a coaching company that teaches people to do what? Like publish books like on Amazon. Like, what is this? This doesn't make, I don't get it. But like, I'll sell it, like,
right.
I mean, I want to make sure that it works. Don't get me wrong. I want to be, ethical here, but I was like, I'll sell it, because I was offered a position with pretty high commission, really high earning potential. It was like a dream job, but I had no idea what self-publishing was, or publishing in general. I didn't know anything about the publishing industry. I didn't really have this idea that, I should do that. Maybe at one point I was like, I should write a book. And at one point, maybe when I was doing other types of online businesses, like creating guitar courses and whatnot, I did write a book and I published it, or was selling a PDF of it. But I was never like, this sounds cool. More than anything, I was like, people actually make money from this, was more my idea. And
so
then,
you were skeptical.
Yeah, I was skeptical. Yeah. Cause at that point I'd tried to start online courses. I'd tried to do online teaching. I'd worked for some companies in maybe the online space where they were like, oh, these are like the get rich things. Right. And some of them were maybe not as, or a little scammier than I wanted them to be. So I had bought into programs that were also a little scammy, but I also knew that there were real things too, right? Real businesses, real. It was just a matter of finding the right one. And then I was working on the sales team, and when you join a company, obviously, and you're selling a product, typically they give you access to the tools and the resources and the course and stuff like that. And I just wanted to make sure that what I was selling was like real, that it actually worked.
Right.
And, in a lot of ways, it was marketed as, you just push some buttons and pick some topics and publish a book and you make passive income for life. And I was like, okay, marketing, I understand. We want to make it sound like the coolest thing since sliced bread. But like, is it really?
Sales.
Yeah, exactly. But I was like, is it really that easy? So I just went through the process on my own, went through the course, followed the steps, published a book, and lo and behold, it started to make money. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I wasn't ever thinking I was going to turn that into a massive business, because, at that point I was making like 20 to 30K a month as a sales rep. So I didn't need money. I didn't need a business to work. I didn't need any of that stuff. I wasn't attached to it other than just verifying that what I was selling actually worked for people. The book is selling and it's starting to make like $1,000 per month, which was like good, not life-changing.
$1,000 a month extra that would change a lot of families.
That's true. Yeah.
So I understand that you could take the $1,000 compared to your 20,000 a month. It's not the same, but $1,000 passively, that's pretty dope.
Yeah, it was absolutely dope. And it gave me a lot of conviction in that business model. And which, helped the sales and whatnot. And, again, fully transparent. That was the first year in my life that I ever made, 20, 30K a month in commission. Before that I was making maybe like 6 or 7K a month. So it was just like at that point in my life, I already felt like I'd made it, I was already making more money than I'd ever dreamed of. So I just wasn't coming at it from like this has to work sort of mindset. So $1,000 was like, this is great. This is cool. I can feel good about selling this. I can feel good about growing this. I can feel good about what's happening. But then I didn't really do that much more with it until I was kind of like, well, it was so easy to do it the first time. Why not make more books?
Well, now, were you still like, was that $1,000 a month ongoing still?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was ongoing, and I was like, well, this is really easy. It's very low effort. And granted, it was very easy for me to get that book published and get it written and do the work and stuff like that. But I do think that, all the failed businesses, all the skills that I'd learned going up to that place, and the fact that I had a lot more money to invest into the business made it very easy to just get it right without overthinking it. So,
right.
Yeah. So I don't want to disregard and just say like, oh, it's the easiest thing in the world. It was just that at that time, it was.
It was extra.
Yeah, exactly. So then I was like, okay, I should do more of this. And I, published another book, didn't do so well. So I was like, oh crap, maybe it doesn't work as easily for every single one. And then I just moved on and did a third one. And that was December of 24. And that was pretty much it. I was just pretty happy with it. And then in February of 2025, still working for publishing.com, have 3 books published. I saw that they were starting to experiment with TikTok. And that's when I started to really move into TikTok shop. I just saw that was possible, and they were having really good results. And they were doing it with like a coloring book, and I was like, well, if they can sell a coloring book on TikTok shop, I can sell a self-help book. And then that's what made that shift. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So now we're February 2025. So this is the same year that you ended up doing over 170 for the year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Well, from Amazon, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of money was in this? Like, what made you want to start going down this path? Was it a lot of money that they were making from this, or you just thought, hey, there's another angle out there?
I think at that point, I thought there was just another angle.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't something that I had to turn into a 6-figure business, but I just felt like it was worth trying, and it made sense to me. Because it's like people are already buying my book, and I felt like it could help a lot of people. And I felt like if I could figure out how to show it to more people, it would only make sense that more people would buy. It's like you create something that people actually want to buy, and then you put it in front of a lot of people, then more people are going to buy it, essentially.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
nice.
But I still wanted it to be as easy as Amazon. Because on Amazon, I wasn't touching anything at that point. Ads were outsourced. I was really, truly a very detached business owner that just like created the books, paid an ad agency to run the ads, and was making money. So I had to figure out, fulfillment. I had to figure out how to go viral. And then when I did, which was sort of end of February, middle of March, that's what really started to 10x my Amazon results. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what was that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was doing like 1,000, 1,500 a month, January, February, end of February, I started to post on TikTok. March, I went viral. Towards I'm trying to remember exact numbers, but it was like, I went from like making 1,500 to all of a sudden I did like 3,700. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then the following month I made like 7,800. And that's when I was like, okay, there is something real to this. And I should just go all in on this.
Right.
Yeah.
Good choice, by the way. Good choice. So you're doubling really for a couple of months.
Yeah.
What was your best month?
My best month in 2025 was October on KDP, and that was like 16K in royalties. And then I did like an extra 3,700 or something like that on Audible as well. So it ended up being about 20K in royalties. Yeah.
All from book. Now, are this more than one book, or is this just the emotional intelligence book?
Yeah, this is primarily the emotional intelligence book, and the inner child healing book started picking up on TikTok as well. So it's really those two books in combination. Yeah.
That's so good to hear for two fronts. One, because you're making good money, but two, we talk a lot about emotional intelligence here on this podcast and, in the CBK community, because it is something that is massively important, especially to young kings, middle-aged kings, old kings. Like, we all need it. So you're kind of hitting two things with the same stone. So you've got TikTok going now, you've got Amazon going, you're on top of the world, and we all love that.
Yeah.
So tell me about a time, whether it's with this business or anything else, where you just had a setback that you didn't know if you were going to be able to recover it from it.
Yeah. I think the crazy thing here, AJ, is like, I tell that story about the success of the business and the growth that we've had in 2025, right? And it's like, we did this in revenue, we did this and we did that. But literally at the same time, what's going on in the background is so many things are falling apart. So it's like a year of tremendous growth at the same time as, personally, there's huge struggle. And part of growing the business fast and aggressively was to compensate for, the financial struggles, everything that's going on in the back end that's driving the story. So it's like this last year was both the high and the low, which has been
at the same time.
Yeah. Which has been crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, tell us about it.
Yeah. Cause so 2024, right? So that's the year before. I'm making 20 to 30K a month. Life is stable. I'm really trying to set myself up right for a future. Right, there's been struggle in the past. I've had a custody battle. I have a daughter that I've sole custody of and full decision making. So I had debt from that. So 2024, I'm like, okay, I'm taking care of all the debt, making really good money, getting myself out of like that situation, and then really setting that trajectory. Right. I finally pay off all the legal fees in 2024 from 2019. It was like $40,000 worth of legal debt,
Good Lord.
Which I negotiated. I negotiated it down to 25, but I still paid it off. Right. So it's like paying off a lot of money, and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm finally going to be debt free. And then I'm going to have this job again next year, because obviously this job is never going to end. And now I'm going to be able to save more. We're going to buy a house. We're going to do all this cool shit that we've always wanted to do. And then in October, my daughter's mom takes me back to court, and she wants, custody again. She wants decision making. And I go, well, now I make a lot of money. So if she wants to go, like, let's go. I'll throw everything I got at this just to like not have to do this fight for another like 10 years. It's like, okay,
right,
we can really go. Because I'm working at publishing.com, I'm making good money. Things are good. It's only looking better. And then in January, that company gets in trouble with the FTC and they start shutting down. So I'm like in this legal battle at the same time as I'm realizing that my job that I'm making 20 to 30K at, that I'm banking on to pay for the legal fees and my family, is not going to be around for much longer. And at the same time, that at the end of 2024, my girlfriend and I, we've been together for 6 years now and live together. I have convinced her that she should quit her job because I make so much money and that I can just provide for all of us.
Brother, I'm just shaking my head because I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
You're at the top, you start treating people right, and then continue.
Yeah, I like what you say. You start treating people right. You know, you're like, you finally like, you've done the right thing. You paid off the fees. You've gotten out of debt. You're setting up your family for the future that you're looking for. And then, you know, life or whatever has a way of like pulling you back. Like the roller coaster. I mean, it goes up and then it goes down. There's no doubt about it. So there's this lag where January, I can see that things are slowing down in the sales role, but there is a slight pickup with the books. February, things are slowing down even more. You know, it was like you're making 20, 30K. All of a sudden you're making like 3K because it's a commission job, right? And you're like, oh, this isn't sustainable. And then at the same time, TikTok takes off and start to go viral, and you're making a lot of money on Amazon and TikTok. But the problem is that the way that Amazon pays, it's not, you know, you don't make $500 in a day and then you get that paid the next day. You get paid 2 months later. So, yeah. So everything that I make in January, I don't get that paid out to me until the end of March and so on. So that's sort of like the payment cycle there.
Delayed gratification.
Very delayed gratification. Yeah. Which once you're on these cycles where you're consistently making X amount, that's really good. But when, you know, your job is going to shit and you're going to court and you're realizing that it's going to be really expensive, and you have this thing that's making all of a sudden starting to take off, but you still have to wait 2 months until you get paid on it. And you don't have any savings because you just put all of your savings into attorneys because you thought that your job was going to continue to go well. You're definitely in a tight spot.
So, and your daughter is how old?
She's 10. She's going to be 11 in March.
Man, so this has to all be pretty difficult for her at the same time, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's probably not in January, February, March, but it has become difficult in this year. So it's because it's interesting in the sense that, you know, I've had custody since 2019, and she hadn't really seen her mom at that point. So for about 5 years there, she didn't really see her mom. Her mom has supervised. Wow. Yeah, her mom has supervised visits. So, but she wasn't using the supervised visits at all. She was saying, you know, I can't afford it, blah, blah, blah. And then she starts to use the supervised visits, and my daughter is very excited. She wants to see her mom. She wants to have a relationship. You know, she's always asking, like, why don't I see my mom? She doesn't quite understand. She was, you know, 4 when I got full custody.
Right.
So in January, in October, there's been some supervised visits. She wants to see her mom more. Her mom is sort of pushing to see her more, you know, having conversations with her about maybe being 50-50, like, you know, not really respectful of boundaries, I would say, in regards to like what the court order says and what, you know, the types of conversations you should have with a kid that you haven't seen for 4 years.
Right.
And then in October, that's when she's filing for custody. At that point, I have allowed for unsupervised visits because I did actually want my daughter to be able to see her mom, and it didn't go very well. So at least I didn't feel that it went well. So I pulled back and said, no, actually, we're going to go back to the court order. We're going to do supervised. My daughter's mom does not like that, goes to court. And because I had allowed it earlier, the judge sets a temporary order for her to have unsupervised parenting time for 6 hours every Sunday. So this is end of 2020, 4.
Okay.
So 2025, beginning of it, my daughter's happy. I mean, she's seeing her mom. She wants to see her mom. And she's asking, like, why can't I just do, 2 nights? Why can't I do sleepover? Why can't I do this? And I'm like, I don't think that that's a good idea. And then things start to really derail with her mom. So the same types of reasons why I'm not with her mom and why that relationship didn't work out, those same type of behaviors, she's displaying those with our daughter. And in about March or April, my daughter decides she doesn't want to do the visits anymore. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's one of those, how did she do? Well, at first she was excited because she wanted to see her mom. And, I was kind of the bad guy because I was keeping her away from her, in a sense, at least in her mind. Although I wasn't, because she had supervised visits, she just chose not to.
She wasn't taking them.
She wasn't taking them, right? So it's like she had all the options in the world, and obviously, like, a sane person would be like, okay, I'm going to take the supervised visits, and then as they go well, then I'm going to file for unsupervised and prove, document, and show that I'm good. Then you do the unsupervised for a while, and you don't fuck up, and then you, start to get more sway, because the court system, the way that they work is they want it to be 50-50. They all, like, sometimes, maybe there's some stigma around favoring moms over dads, but in theory, at least in Arizona, they want it to be 50-50. So all you have to do is just be a decent person for a certain amount of time and be able to prove it. And she would have gotten it, but it didn't go that way. And now, that turns into a problem where my daughter doesn't want to leverage that time anymore. So it was interesting for me, because I went from being the bad guy in my daughter's mind to being the protector. But as I'm being the bad guy, I'm not saying, if only you knew, how I protected you and what I'm keeping you from. It was like, okay.
Right, because you're not supposed to do that. Yeah.
No, you're not. I think that's a hard thing in those relationships. Like, you can't be that person. All you can do is be the stable, steady person, and then eventually hope that they realize that they have that realization. And that's the hardest part, because you have to eat all the shit, and be the decent person.
Well, I remember all of those same kind of battles on my end, going through the same stuff. So my next question to you is, okay, so it sounds like, excuse me, you're hemorrhaging money again, right, with attorneys.
Yeah.
The company that you're working for is going down at the same time.
Yeah.
But your side business is now, it sounds like it's maybe either sustaining you or it's keeping you afloat or something like that. Where's your mental with all of this? Your mental, like, I understand what's going on with your daughter, but where's your mental in all this?
Oh man, my mental is, I'm backed up against the wall, right? There's days where I'm just like so stressed. And then there's days where I'm like, wow, I'm so glad I like figured out the system, right? Figured out a way to generate like passive income. But so I'm like, there's all the feelings all at once. So, I leave publishing.com. I find another closing job for a different company. Actually a company that helps people get on podcasts, believe it or not. And I'm just not having a good time. And it's not the business owner's fault. It's not the business. It's not the offer. It's just like, I'm not enjoying those sales, and I'm probably stressed, right? I'm like, I really want this to work so I can make the same type of money while growing the business, while going to court, so it's like, you're just like in this like impossible space. So I last maybe two or 3 weeks with that company. But then at the same time, the books are starting to pick up just enough. Like, I finally get my big payout from TikTok, because they hold your money for a while too. And I'm like, okay, I have barely enough to like sustain this. So we're just Jimmy rigging the crap out of it, right? The finances, the working, the like making a couple $1,000s here, closing, finally getting paid off from TikTok, like figuring out like how to make it all work. And then I go in on the TikTok thing, and I am getting paid enough now because I'm getting paid off from Amazon. And then I'm finding out that my legal fees are just getting bigger and bigger. And then I'm trying, to do some closing at the same time as I'm growing the business, at the same time as I'm trying to juggle this legal thing. And
still be a good dad too.
And still be a good dad. Yeah, still be a good partner, still be a good person. I'm just kind of stuck at that point, It's like you're just constantly getting pressured to solve really difficult problems.
Mm-hmm.
I would call it like cortisol brain. That's what I call it now. Like you just have cortisol brain. There's just so much decision fatigue, so much stress in your brain, and you're trying to make decisions, and it doesn't feel like any decision you make moves the needle the direction that you need it to go, right? So it's like TikTok's going well, Amazon's going well, but then I realized that I need to come up with $15,000 cash in 2 months, and it's like, well, everything would for the legal stuff. And it's like, oh wow, like on paper, this is going well, except for the fact that I have to magically come up with a lot of money fast. So that takes away from the business. And then you just kind of go, well, I guess I'm just going to scale the business as hard as I can. But then you're not necessarily making the best decisions like for profitability and things like that.
Yeah. That's always the catch, right? The short term versus the long term. So, God, man, it sounds like you were dealing with a lot all at the same time. And it's crazy. I knew you through this time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know all of this. I mean, I'm learning it with everybody else right now while we're on the podcast. It's crazy. I always tell people, and I even wrote this in my book, it is wild the things that men are going through behind closed doors that people will never know about because we don't share them with people.
Yeah.
Right. Just like you said, cortisol brain. You don't have time to do all of that because you're steady trying to solve another problem, make another decision, find another way to take care of your daughter, to take care of your finances and everything else like that. So, man, I hate to say I'm sorry that you went through that because I think we've already established that it's just life, right?
Yeah.
A roller coaster. It's the same amount of times you go down, the same amount of times you go up. So talk to me about this. Was there a turning point? And if there wasn't a turning point, how did you get out of this?
Yeah.
Mentally and then also strategically.
I wouldn't say that there was a definite turning point.
Okay.
I would say, if I were to say that, pin it to something specific, I would say that I did at a certain point receive some financial help from my family, which is the first time I've ever received that really enabled me to have the cash flow to do the legal stuff at the same time as I was doing the business. So there was a turning point there in the sense of, around September, I was like, I'm going to have to shut this down, but I don't know what I'm going to do. And then my stepdad helped me. And that was amazing. Not everyone has that opportunity.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I think that I would consider that a turning point. And if he ever hears this, like, Bob, I'm eternally grateful for you. But the other aspect of it is I don't feel like there's been a defining turning point that's like, this is the thing that changed everything to put me on the upward trajectory. It was more just playing out the process, right? It was more so, I'm just going to have to continue to solve problems and accepting that and figuring out like, what's the next step and learning to negotiate, learning to have conversations, learning to look at my numbers truly and not think of like vanity metrics, right? Like it doesn't do you any good to do $50,000 a month in revenue if your profits are $500. Like you're putting in a lot of work to not get that. Right. Not just a hypothetical number, but like truly confronting those things. And then I think too, with the legal stuff, I had the trial December 4th. So that's fairly fresh. I actually don't have the court order yet. It could take until February, but just letting the process play out, letting it have its go, because it will eventually stop, right? It's like, it's very hard to scale a business that needs cash when your personal life is draining your cash as well. And then you're trying to find the spot in the middle where it's like, well, how can I make some extra money to make up for the bleeding? But at a certain point in that process, you do know that there's a defined date where the bleeding will stop. And you might not get the result at the end of that. I mean, I don't know what the result is, right, that you're wanting. But at least that's like this definite line in the sand or date that's like, okay, once I get, as long as I get to this point, then the bleeding stops. And then it's like, okay, now that the bleeding has stopped and I've settled for a second, then now I can, without cortisol brain, like look at the numbers and be like, oh shit, if I sell my books at this price and pay this much in ads, I'm actually not making money. So then it's like, well, what do I have to do to actually make money on this? Mm-hmm. And so I wouldn't say that there was, besides that extra help that I got, I wouldn't say that there was a defining mental point or a decision that took me back. I feel like I'm honestly like still in that process.
That's fair. I mean, like you said, this is, you still got a court order pending, but
yeah,
you still had a hell of a 2025 through that process. And so I guess I was just curious if there was something in it. So let me ask you this question then. You're not the only person going through a custody battle, right?
No,
we know this is something that's very, very common. So for any of our kings that are listening, that are going through something similar and it's draining their finances and it's draining their energy level, what are some words of wisdom that you could give as we part ways this afternoon that could help them in their journey?
Yeah, I would say this, that first of all, it's going to end at some point. Like the big battles will end. They will eventually be over. You will eventually get that rest. And it's probably worse right before that happens, right? So every sort of journey has its end, and just knowing that this is not going to be your life forever, whether that is 5 years, 10 years, that. And then I would say, don't let that define you, that you're going through the difficult stuff. Don't let that become like your identity. Don't let that define you. Don't say that you can't do shit just because your life is hard, because ultimately, like, everyone's life is hard. and some may have it better than others, but I would just not let that become the reason why I didn't achieve the things that I wanted in life. I would much rather say, no, I'm going to do this anyway, and then maybe fall flat on my face, versus just saying, oh, this is really difficult, and because I'm going through this thing, I can't live my dream life.
No excuses.
No excuses. Yeah.
That's right.
That's how I would think about it. Like, there just isn't, like, you can acknowledge that the things are hard, and I could say to myself, like, yeah, my business would have done a lot better if I didn't pay $60,000 in legal fees over the course of 2025. And I don't think anyone would disagree with that. But if I just said I couldn't grow my business, or I couldn't do this thing because I had to do this other difficult thing, then I would feel worse about that. I personally, I just think that there aren't any excuses. There are reasons, but you can't turn them into an excuse. You can't say, I'm the victim and my life sucks because the system is against me and this and that. Like, all of that can 100% be true, right? The system can be biased against fathers, right? Like, whatever, right? Like, it's 100% true, or can be. But if you buy into that story and then allow yourself to not fight for the life that you want, at least, then now you really just allow the system to complete that story. That's really what I think.
Man, that's 100% correct. And you know what I would add to that, just in case, because it sounds like you're very clear about your blessings, okay?
Yeah.
But just in case you're not, man, the chain of events that leading up to you being able to have that kind of income or that revenue coming in from TikTok and from Amazon was right on time for you to be able to fight for your daughter.
Exactly.
Right? If you had stopped, if you had just succumbed to it, not only would it have ended poorly for you, but also for your daughter as well. And so I love hearing that you're fighting for your family, for your daughter. You're doing what's right for them. And I'm so glad that you've got a vehicle to help you to really continue to do big things, man.
Yeah. I think that's part of it too, right? It is the long-term horizon, right? It's like, not only am I fighting for myself, I'm fighting for my family, and have made that decision. But it is that long-term horizon of, if I let this stop me from building a business that it's going to create the wealth and the lifestyle that I want for my family for generations to come, right? Then I can't let the here and now stop me from doing that, because if I'm always letting the here and now stop me from doing that, I'm never going to build the thing that gets us out of it.
That's right. That's right. Brother Jonathan, I really appreciate that you've hung out with us for a couple of minutes here, and thank you for sharing your story. Before we go, how can they get a copy of your bestseller?
Yeah, they can go on to Amazon, and they can search for Mindful Minds Co., and they'll see my emotional intelligence book there just by doing that. You can also go on TikTok and search for Mindful Minds Co-Publishing or Mindful Minds Publishing. You'd think I would know exactly my handle, but you can find my books there too. So
that's awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Guys, again, Jonathan Nilsson, powerful story about resilience, and can't wait to hear more of your story. Love to see you inside of our Comeback Kings app as well, so that people can reach out to you. But for those of you listening in, until next time, remember, your comeback does not define you. Excuse me, your setbacks don't define you. Your comebacks will. All right, until next time. Peace, guys.
That does it for another episode of the Comeback Kings podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, leave us a review, and come join the after party inside the app at cbknetwork.com. And remember, your past doesn't define you. Your comeback will.